Hey there everyone, so I wanted to do something a little different this time around, and I wanted to upload a reaction video, but I also kind of wanted to talk a little more in depth about what actually happened in the Feh Channel. So if you want to see my live reactions, that video is live right now. There's a link in the description for it. If you want to check that out after this video, feel free to do that. If you haven't already, it did go live first. But I kind of wanted to get into the meat and bones of the Feh Channel and what we had, because even though it was only 10 minutes long, we did get a good chunk of information that's gonna be kind of defining moving forward, I think, for Heroes, for better or worse, for that matter. They didn't really address some of the issues that were going on, but they did kind of change the functionality of certain things. So we'll get to that in a second. But to start off, the trailer. I mean, that oh my, that was interesting. I'm pretty sure they killed Sharina. I'm pretty sure that happened. And then just didn't bother talking about it since. We got introduced to the realm of the dead, or hell, which was pretty much laid on to at the end of book 2 that we kind of knew about. And then we also had some new characters introduced. So that being Air, Hell, Leaf, and Thrasir, I believe is how you pronounce her name. It's worth noting that this story is different and darker, and they even noted that in the Feh Channel. And that players who are new to the game could start playing it right away, so they wouldn't have to clear books 1 or 2 first. They could have immediate access to book 3. That's kind of interesting. I guess what my takeaway from that would be, it's a standalone, right? So everything we've learned so far from books 1 and 2, probably not super applicable if you're going to allow new players to just kind of jump into it and not have a whole lot of background in Heroes. So for what that's worth, I think that means that this is kind of like a standalone sequel that we're going to be having with book 3, and the tone is obviously much, much darker than anybody is used to at this point. So it's going to be interesting. Air seems super interesting. We knew from later in the trailer that she is actually a hero of light, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And I almost feel like she's being trapped there by Hell. So I don't think she's supposed to be there. I think we have a very Persephone type situation going on. If you know your Greek and Roman mythology, then that makes sense to you. But if not, just know that I don't think she's supposed to be there, and Hell kind of has her trapped. And I think that might be one of the driving forces that we have with her wanting to join the Order of Heroes, which is also revealed later in the trailer, or in the Feh Channel as well. And then we had Hell, who is not at all who I was expecting to see. That's not who I thought we'd have as our main antagonist. But that's the cards that we have been dealt, and then that's pretty much what we got. We've also got a look at some of the generals from Hell, one of which being Leaf, the other being Thrasir, which I mentioned earlier. And I think one of the interesting things is they kind of mirror almost Alphonse and Sharina. Now, one of the things I think might be interesting, I think Leaf has a connection to Asker, and he might have been a former king of Asker, and I think they talked about it in the Ether Raid's introduction. I talked about this on a video a little while back, probably a couple weeks ago now, but the Ether Raid's introduction wasn't just like a new game mode. It kind of snuck some lore in there that Alphonse just happened upon or knew about, and it talked about the first king of Asker, and I think that may have been Leaf. I'm not sure. There's some speculation going around on the internet as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of snuck that in as almost like an Easter eggy type deal. But as for what that means moving forward, I don't know. I think it's interesting. We'll talk about it later. The new blessings are tied to Ether Raids only. And then we're getting introduced with these new characters, one of which who is a new blessing, and one of which the general may have been tied to Asker at one point, but it's also tied into Ether Wraith. I just think that's curious, the way that they kind of like built that together. So that might be something to look out for. And then Thrasir, we don't really know much about her. She kind of got the lesser treatment almost. Granted, you know, Leaf kind of did too, but we like I said, we kind of had this information moving forward before all of this happened with the Ether Raids introduction. So we also had the next little bit of news, which was new seasons. Hooray! We got new seasons. They are tied to Ether Raids, like I just said. They're not necessarily legendary heroes, which is new, and we have 4 of them. So I did a video a while back, a couple weeks ago, that talked about the light and shadow attributes or blessings, and whether or not we'd be getting them. Well, it turns out we're getting not only light, dark, we're getting Astra and Anima as well. So we're getting very metaphysical right now. Everything is changing tones, and it's getting very interesting. So this is not going to affect legendary heroes, just to be clear. The legendaries, untouched by these new ones. We got the introduction of what would be mythic heroes. Mythic heroes are coming, and the first one, of course, is Air, and she is light, and it seems weird that she would be in hell. I don't know. The overall tone of the trailer just really made me feel like she was out of place there and was just being kept against her will or something like that. Which, by the way, how did we not talk about the fact that Shireena's dead? They just up and killed Shirina? What? And then nobody talked about it? Nobody wanted to talk about that. Faye didn't want to talk about that? Like, really? What? I don't understand why people do this to me. But either way, moving on. There's no speculation there. Shirina pretty much looked dead. Shirina's dead. Don't know what happened to Veronica or, you know, Loki. So it's just, I don't know. Maybe it was all a bad dream. Or like a premonition of the future. That's the forging bonds that we just had with Niffle. Everything was very much about premonition and what was going to happen. So maybe it was all a premonition. I don't know. Anyway, Mythic Heroes. I could depict that trailer if I really wanted to, but I don't think I'm going to go down that hole. Mythic Heroes are tied to those new blessings that we have there, and they are involved with Ether Raids. So I'm assuming that means we're going to have a lot of new Mythic bonus units or something along those lines. Which I don't know if that's really helping Ether Raids. Ether Raids really needs to focus on the cost of playing Ether Raids and how it's absolute insanity that if I have 58 Ether points things left and I need 64 to play, I can't do anything. That's insane. They need to kind of figure out how to adjust that or rework it in a way that makes sense for everybody who's playing. Because I tell you, there's just not enough room to make up for that. Either way, so we get some new effects that are kind of unannounced with those. Air, of course, was noted to be the first mythic hero. So I feel like maybe we're taking a deep dive here. We're going beyond kind of heroes lore, you know, like which was kind of built upon the lore of everybody else, every other Fire Emblem game, and now we're kind of branching off into our own thing, which isn't bad, but I hope they treat it well and they do good things. But I think IS is pretty receptive to overall input from the player base, so I'm pretty hopeful. And then this happened. Then we get a Hero Fest, which I don't really have to pull on, honestly, because I have all those units. Granted, they're not the great, and the fodder is absolutely ridiculous with that banner. But if you want a chance to wail on Air, which I'm sure a lot of people will, that is your chance. You're getting a Hero Fest banner with Lowen, Ophelia, Owain, who is just so good, and then Air, which we're kind of out. We don't really know much on her. She's just kind of there. We will a little bit later, when the update comes out, and you can play chapters 1 and 2 for free, obviously, and complete it and get her as a neutral. So I'm sure the data miners will come out with all kinds of base 40 stats that we can look at that point. But right now she's just kind of, if indication has been anything, I'm sure she'll be good. I'm sure she'll be great. And it's worth noting she is a defensive tile there, so she's not speed or is that resistance? I don't know. Either way, she is light, and I think that's resistance if I'm remembering right. But either way, we got Hero Fest. It's a great banner. If you're new to the game, this is definitely well worth your investment. There's one hero of every color, and they're all very, very good. So definitely worth a look at. And then we got this news: the first summon tickets, which I know there's a lot of crossover between Heroes and Dragalia Lost, which those are the two main games that I play on mobile. And Dragalia Lost kind of has this thing too, except there's a slight differentiation between the two, which we'll talk about in just a second. So with Dragalia Lost, you get summon tickets, you get to summon things for free. The rates are absolutely awful in Dragalia Lost, so at least they'll be a little more beneficial in Heroes, I think. Because this is like 0.25% or something crazy like that to try and get a focus unit. But over here on Heroes, where we have the 3.0, which may or may not be real, who really knows? Sometimes it feels like 20%, sometimes it feels like 0.5%. But we are getting the first summon ticket free, and what it does is it eliminates you having to use those first 5 orbs to summon. Now, we already kind of have something like that, where you get your first summon on any new banner free, so you don't have to pay the 5 orbs, you can just summon from that first circle, and that's that. I don't know if that's going away. I feel like more than likely it might be. But, the first summon tickets aren't necessarily universal. We got news later on that made mention of, you can only use the first summon tickets during the event that they're tied to. So we went on to talk about how the first summon tickets would show up during this Hero Fest, which has the units that we just talked about. And you could use those summon tickets on that banner. And then we kind of jumped into this other thing, which talked about I freaked out. It talked about the new Forging Bonds event and how we would have tickets available to us during the Forging Bonds event in January. And the Forging Bonds event in January was confirmed to be Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, which we already knew was going to be happening, but we got confirmation that it was in fact Radiant Dawn, and it would include beast units, and Tibern is one of them, and I flipped out. I was so excited. If you're not really big into reaction stuff, if you want to go watch that video where I scream Tibern, if you've never heard a grown man scream Tibern before, it's on the internet forever now. You're welcome. But we're going to be looking at the Forging Bonds event, and those are going to be redeemable rewards that we'll be able to obtain during the Forging Bonds. So I don't know if they're exclusively going to be through Forging Bonds stuff. I don't know how frequently those first summon tickets are going to be moving forward. But ultimately what it told us was you can only use those summon tickets during the banners that they're intended for. So there's no sense in holding on to them. Obviously, you want to wait until you have some orbs to actually summon if you want to finish out the circle. But it's basically multiple first free summons. If you don't want to spend any orbs, you of course have to back out after the first ticket, after the first one you use, and then use another ticket. So it only counts for those first 5 cost that exists. So again, I don't know if we're going to be able to still have the first free summon as well. Just because, again, these tickets are not applicable to every single banner that we get, and that first free summon is. So that's the only thing that kind of makes me think that they might stick around. But at the same time, I almost feel like this is their way of phasing that benefit out. And they didn't really talk about it. So I guess we'll find out later. Those tickets are going to be available tonight once the Hero Fest banner goes live, which I think is tonight. Pretty sure this is tonight. But either way, we're getting Beast units. We should be happy about that, right? January's banner is bringing, of course, Radiant Dawn characters, and we're getting Beast units like Tibern. Tibern, of course, was a very, very, very popular unit. It did very well in Choose Your Legends, and I am not surprised in the least that they wanted to showcase Tibern and let us know that he was on his way and he was coming. They even had him, like, his sprite drop off mail to Feh, because why not? So after that happened, we of course got the news that we will be getting a free heir, which kind of made me feel like they're just kind of redoing the formula from book 2. So I'm not 100% sure how to feel about that. Of course, you know, in that trailer, we didn't see anybody from book 2. We didn't see anybody from Niffle or Muspel pop in. It was pretty much just Veronica and Loki. We didn't have any Bruno. We didn't even see Anna. I don't know what Commander Anna was doing, but she was slacking and not keeping Sharina from dying, which definitely did happen. But we're going to be getting Air free after Chapter 1 of Book 3. So if you don't want to spend money on the Hero Fest banners, which, you know, I get it. I am definitely saving my orbs right now. I just lost my job last week, and so I don't have that luxury anymore. And on top of it, we're getting Winter and New Year's banners in just a couple weeks. So I almost feel like this banner is skippable if you're not necessarily looking for fodder or you don't have these units. If you're like me and you don't necessarily need the fodder, even though the fodder would be nice, it's definitely easy to skip. And the one unit that is new that could be, you know, very, very good from that banner, you're getting her for free anyway. So I'm very thrilled that we are getting that. I'm a little bummed that it seems right now that they're kind of just taking a darker, edgier approach to the story of a reformulated book 2. Either way, you know, I'm withholding judgment because I'm very trustful of IS and Heroes and Fire Emblem in general. I don't think they'd really let us down in that sense. If you notice, the new characters that we did get introduced to, it was a 3-1 split between female and male characters, which is pretty typical of banners for the most part. The Hero Fest banner is split 2 and 2, so that's kind of nice. But we did have a male unit introduced, so I don't know that it'll be super waifu heavy this time around. I don't really care either way, but I know that's a criticism that some people have had in the past. It's, you know, it's not necessarily inaccurate, but, you know, it's I don't really know. I don't have any strong feelings towards it whatsoever. I'm just very excited that we're getting a new book, we're getting new chapters, we're getting a new story, and Tibern. And Tibern is coming! So yeah, that's what I'm mostly excited for. It was 10 minutes, but there was a lot kind of packed into it. So, you know, we're getting new blessings that aren't necessarily tied to legendary heroes or, you know, anything else. So I don't know if that means we're going to be getting Mythic banners and legendary banners. I kind of feel like that's how it's trending. I'm scared. But either way, if that does happen and we have 2 separate banners, that's just more banners that you might be able to fodder on. I don't know. It would be really nice if we had first free summon tickets for like legendary or mythic banners, if those do ever become a thing. Or maybe they won't do mythic heroes in banners, even though they kind of already did. Maybe we'll get them all for free. Who knows? It's an open world. It's the Wild West right now. So if you guys are excited for Book 3 like I am, and you want a chance at the giveaway, there is a giveaway that's still been going on. I'll probably close it out by the end of the week. Maybe, we'll see. I'll have a definite update for that probably by, you know, midweek. But if you haven't had a chance to check that out, feel free to do so. If you want to catch my reaction to the trailer, you can check that out in the description below. Or you can just subscribe and get all my videos just right at your fingertips. That's a possibility too. But either way, in the comments, you guys, let me know what your thoughts are on what just happened with Book 3, that trailer 3.0 update incoming. We didn't get to talk about everything that was in the Book 3 update, or the 3.0 update, but I'm sure there will be more coming out on that very, very soon. So, of course, you know, if you don't want to miss any of my thoughts on that, be sure to subscribe. That's it. I want to know what you guys think. I will read the comments. I don't always get a chance to respond to everybody, but definitely give me your thoughts down there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm very excited for what's coming. I have high hopes. But that's it for right now. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.